Hi, hello, vanakkam, and welcome back to yet another episode on Little's Law YouTube channel. So recently in one of the WhatsApp group, I've got a question asking for an explanation of what is a constant throughput timer and how can we use it. So here today I have 7 different use cases which I will explain to you one by one with an example. So the very first thing is, let's see what is a constant throughput timer. So here we have the constant throughput timer, which we can add by right clicking on the thread group, go to add, and then under the timer we can select the constant throughput timer. So once you select it, automatically it comes inside the thread group. So this constant thread group timer in JMeter serves the purpose of controlling the rate at which requests are sent to a server during a performance test. So this allows us to simulate a specific level of traffic or load on our application. So this is something like a think time which we use in other tools like LoadRunner or NeoLoad. So now we will see different use cases on how to use the constant throughput timer. So the very first the key use case is the load testing at a specific throughput. So in this very first example, I want to simulate a certain number of users accessing my application per minute. So this is especially useful when we have specific SLAs to meet. So to achieve this, I will have to set up the number of hits or the target throughput. So once I choose the constant throughput timer, or once I add the constant throughput timer, under the target throughput, I can add the number of hits. So the number of hits are the target throughput which I want to achieve. And then if I save it, and so the thread group, I have just one thread, and the ramp period is 2, and the loop count is 1. So when I click on the hits, and if I go to the summary report, so here you can see there is just one sample, and under the VSL street it's just one, but the target throughput for per minute is 100. So which means in a minute I have to achieve 100 hits. Let me go back to the sample report. So here we have just achieved one request, and it's because in the thread group we have chosen the loop count as 1. So for this to check or to validate this particular timer, we'll have to choose the infinite, because anyways the throughput timer will control the duration. So I've chosen infinite, and the number of user is 1. And if I go back to the constant throughput timer, and when I start running the test, under the summary report, here you can see I started to get requests, and in less than a minute or in 1 minute, I will achieve the requested 100 hits. So that is why we are using this particular timer. So again, I'm saying this timer is used to achieve or it is used to load test at a specific throughput. So the next one is to maintain a steady load. So we will see how are we going to achieve the second use case, which is maintaining a steady key load. So instead of bombarding our server with a burst of requests, we can use the constant throughput timer to maintain a steady and controlled load. So this helps in understanding how our application behaves under consistent traffic. So I will show you how to do the maintaining a steady load using the same example now. So before that, let's see, we are going to achieve, so here we are less than a minute, and we are going to achieve the 100 transactions as we expected or as we used. So now, yeah, we have, so the steps is running, but still let me check. So in this case, we have to stop the test because we have not defined any end situation. So let me stop the test, and now, yeah, so we were able to achieve the 100 hits in less than a minute. So that's the first use case. And then second thing is maintaining a steady load. So where I want to maintain a constant load of 50 requests per minute, and for that I'm going to have the same setup which we did for the first use case, but I'm going to set the target to be 500. So that is the only change. So by doing this, I'm going to maintain a steady state or steady load. And then in fact we have even different options here under the calculate throughput. We can calculate the throughput on all active threads, or we can calculate the throughput based on all active threads in current thread group, or in all active threads shared, or in all active threads group shared. For now I'll just choose this thread only. And then the third key use case is the capacity planning. So what is capacity planning? So for capacity planning, I want to gradually increase the load on my application until it reaches a point where it starts to show signs of performance degradation. So this is to check the performance of the application. So how to achieve that? So same case, I have a thread group, I have a HTTP request, I have added a constant throughput timer here, and I'm going to set the request per minute to 10, just 10. And now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run the test. I'm going to watch the response times. So here you can see I'm getting 10 hits per minute. So I'm just waiting for 10 hits. So same way I can keep on adding, I can keep on editing the throughput rate. So to 20, or in case if you are starting it with 100, you can increase it to 200 if you still want to check the capacity of the system. So you can increase it to 200, or you can start with 100, and then if it goes fine, you can start it with 200. If it goes fine, then you can proceed with 300 until a point where the performance starts to degrade, or until a point where you start to see bottlenecks. And the fourth use case is avoiding server user overload. So this constant throughput timer prevents overloading the server by ensuring that requests are sent at a controlled rate. So this helps in preventing server crashes or performance bottlenecks due to a sudden spike in traffic. So that's why we use this controller throughput. So how to do that? So in a scenario where I want to prevent overloading my server by ensuring that requests are sent at a controlled rate, I use the same setup here, but the target throughput, the request per minute, to a load that the server can handle. So for example, you might know a load that the system can handle during your load test or during your load test requirement collection. So you can use that particular number for the constant throughput timer as a target throughput. So that's how you can avoid the server overloading during your test. So which means you can use the maximum load the system can handle, but not beyond that. Okay. And now the fifth scenario is evaluating the scaling scenarios. So in this scenario, I want to test how my application scales with additional resources. So I have to follow the same steps, like adding a thread group, the HTTP request, and then the constant throughput timer. So to evaluate the scaling scenarios, what I'm going to do now is at one point of time, I will find a point where the system starts, where the performance starts degrading. So I can add even more threads or servers to see how the application can handle the increased load. So for example, in this scenario, I'm seeing that the application can handle up to 100 requests, or at 1000 requests, the user starts to fail. Then I can add even more users to check how does the system behaves when I'm scaling up the scenario. So in other words, I would say if I'm testing my application, like to understand how much does it scale with additional resources like more servers, I can use the constant throughput timer to gradually increase the load and monitor the performance. And now the sixth use case is this stress testing with a defined limit. So I can use this timer to set an upper limit on the number of requests per minute, and this is useful when I want to find the breaking point of my application. So again, it's the same point. So I can set up the upper limit here. So this is not a lower limit, but it is an upper limit. So I can set an upper limit of 2000 requests during the test, or during for every minute. So using that, I can find the breaking point of my application. And then finally, the last use case, which is the checking for consistency. So when I want to ensure that my application performs consistently over a period of time, I can use this timer to maintain a steady level of traffic, which we all know, because we can set the target throughput, so which means we can check the consistency. So when I want to ensure that my application performs consistently over the period of time, or during the load test or during the stress test, I can use this timer to maintain a steady level of traffic. So just remember, this constant throughput timer works in conjunction with other elements in our JMeter test plan. So it does not guarantee that the specified throughput will be achieved, especially if the server is unable to handle it. So it attempts to maintain the desired throughput, but actual results may vary based on various factors like the server capacity, the network conditions. But it's crucial to monitor the server's performance during the test, because in some scenarios where if the server do not respond, then in those cases we might not be able to achieve the number of hits that we have targeted. So in under those scenarios, these constant throughput timer will not work. So we have to be very careful in using this constant throughput timer. And again, it's very crucial to monitor the server's performance during the test. So I would definitely recommend you try using this constant throughput timer in your test. And let me know in the comment section, how do you feel, and do you have any queries? Please do message me in my comment section. So until I meet you in another interesting video, it's bye bye from Vasan Shanmugam and Little Slav.